This interview is a part of the Oklahoma Historical Society's oral history program, Living Legends Collection. This interview was originally conducted on November the 17th, 1969. The interview was conducted by Mr. Pendleton Woods. The interviewee is Mr. John Rogers, an attorney of Tulsa, Oklahoma. This interview was made on the occasion of the 1969 annual Hall of Fame banquet in Oklahoma City. This interview is being re-recorded on July the 3rd, 1985, for inclusion in the permanent collections of the Oral History Program by Judith Michener.
This is Penn Woods. I'm interviewing for the Oklahoma Living Legends Library. The date is November 17, 1969. The occasion is the day of the annual dinner of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. I'm visiting with Mr. John Rogers from Tulsa, Oklahoma, an attorney from Tulsa who has been active for many years in the fields of law, in the fields of education as a member of the Board of Regents and leader of the Board of Regents, also active throughout his career in the Disciples of Christ Church, and active since the beginning in the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. Mr. Rogers, I wonder, to open up, if you would tell us a little bit about your parentage and your early life.
My father was a stock farmer in Hickory County, Missouri, in Hickory County, Missouri, and my grandfather, his father, came with a settlement from Kentucky to Hickory County, Missouri, along about 1838. And my father was born in Hickory County, grew up in Hickory County, was married and reared his family in Hickory County. And he was a stock farmer, and I grew up on the farm, and I was at the farm until I left. And I taught country school for a year or two. Then I left Missouri and came to Oklahoma City in 1908, February, and went to Hills Business College for a secretarial course, after which later in that year I went to Wewoka, Oklahoma, and was secretary in a law firm of Crump and Rogers, the Rogers being my older brother, Harry H. Rogers. And I was there for about 6 months, and I went to their offices in Holdenville, was there for a short period of time, and in 1910 I left for the University of Oklahoma. And I graduated in law from the University of Oklahoma in the spring of 1914.
Describe the university at that time. Describe the university at that time.
The university at that time was a very small institution. There were 14 students in my law class, in the graduating class. They still had a 2-year high school program for the last 2 years in high school, because of the number of students coming to the university at that time with only a 2-year or a 3-year high school education. And I only had a 3-year high school education, so I took the senior year in high school and 1 year in college, the college level, before I entered law school.
Going from there, could you tell about the beginning of your career following college?
After graduating from college, I returned to Holdenville, Oklahoma, and became associated with the family group known as the McFarland and Chapman Family Group, made up largely of R.M. McFarland and his family and J.A. Chapman and his family. And I was there 1 year. And in April 1915, I went to Tulsa and joined the Tulsa office of this family group. And I remained as counsel and advisor and consultant with this family group during almost my entire career, insofar as my professional career was concerned. I'm now as a lawyer by profession. I'm now the senior member of the law firm of Rogers, Bell and Robinson in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we still represent the living members of this family group, and also we are representing the estate now, to the executor now of the J.A. Chapman estate.
Mr. Rogers, over your career, you've been involved in several different fields besides law, but let's start off with law. And could you tell me some of the committees, commissions are such that you have been involved in, and possibly some of the background of these within the legal field?
My experience was not too extensive in the legal field because my responsibilities with my clients at Chapman Farm Group was such that I could not give a great deal of time to the organized life of the professional field as far as the law is concerned. I held some minor positions with reference to the county organization and the state organization, but I never was in a position where I could give the time necessary to head up the state organization.
Let's talk about education, Mr. Rogers. I know you served on the Board of Regents beginning quite a number of years back. If you would tell us about this, and also tell us what the school situation was at that time, and possibly some of the problems that you dealt with from the standpoint of higher education.
When I was first appointed a member of the Board of Regents, University of Oklahoma, it was in Governor Trapp's administration.
Yeah.
The year was I was appointed a member of the State Regents for Higher Education University. I'm a member of the University of Oklahoma Board of Regents, and about the middle of the 1920s, and I served on a Board of Regents during the during the Trapp administration, also through the Johnson administration, also the Holloway administration. And I served on the Board of Regents until the Murray administration. My term expired, and Governor Murray did not reappoint me. It was a small university at that time, and of course we dealt with fiscal problems. We're always short on money. We dealt with fiscal problems, and of course we had certain political problems in connection with the program of the university. But I was pretty well satisfied with the progress we made during the time I was a member of the Regents. At the beginning of the Phillips administration, I was reappointed to the Board of Regents of the University of Oklahoma. Early in the Phillips administration, consideration was given to the creation of the State Board of Regents for Higher Education in the state of Oklahoma for the purpose of coordinating the different institutions of higher education insofar as their policy was concerned. Also, to create as a basis of these of the State for Higher Education a constitutional board. This was a constitutional board, and of course the members could not be removed by the governor. They're going to be removed for cause, and this stabilized the administrative background, the policy background, as far not only as far as University of Oklahoma is concerned, but higher education in the state of Oklahoma. Now the State Regents for Higher Education only had responsibility in the field of curriculum and policy. And really in all fields except they did not have control of the local administration of the institution. They had a separate board as far as administering the university after we allocated to the university the budgets necessary for the university. But we remained the control as far as finances was concerned, and the control as far as the granting of degrees was concerned. The separate board became a local administrative board for the institution, and we did not have control over personnel. During the time that I was a member of the board of the State Regents for Higher Education, which was for a period of 18 years, our principal problem was convincing the legislature of the needs of the university fiscally, and obtaining adequate appropriations from the legislature to substantially undergird the different institutions in the system, which were a large number of institutions on an economic basis or a financial basis, whereby they could improve their work and carry forward and improve education. In the field of education, the reason why we were able to accomplish what we did through the state region of higher education is the coordination of our education and the elimination of duplications in the different systems, and trying to bring about a coordinated curriculum program through the several institutions where if we had a strong program in one institution in one field, we could prevent the duplication of it in the same area in another institution. Now, we had problems here, and some of our major problems were in this connection, and we did not do the job we should have done as far as coordination of our education is concerned, but we improved it very much.
Mr. Rogers, over the years you've been active in the Disciples of Christ Church, and I believe you have been national president of that body and been active in the religious field. I wonder if you could tell us from your standpoint, maybe not just of this church, but of the development of churches generally and religion as you have observed it and had a part in it over the years.
I began my interest in religion early in my career, really during the time I was at the University of Oklahoma. And my work there was through membership as a student in the First Christian Church at Norman, Oklahoma. I also was active in the YMCA from a religious point of view, and attended some national conferences in connection with the YMCA. I attended one conference in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, where they had men like John R. Mott and Robert E. Spear and John Timothy Stone, and these leading religious leaders of that day, which they were endeavoring to convince some of the more able, more brilliant young men that they should give their full time to Christian service on the mission fields, particularly at this time in China. I at that time had made up my mind I was going to study law, and I told these men they had great influence on me because they were outstanding Christian men. And I told them at the time that I was going to continue my career as in the law, and that would be my vocation. But I could assure them my avocation would be in the field of religion, and my avocation has been in the field of religion from that time down to the present time. And I started working in the field of religion, basically through the Disciples of Christ Church, which we sometimes call the Christian Church. And I moved up to membership on the national committees, and I served for 30 years on the United Christian Missionary Society, which was the international mission board of our church. Finally, as a climax to it all, I was elected president of the International Convention of our church, and I was one of, I think, only 2 laymen that's ever been elected president of the International Convention. I got probably greater satisfaction out of the influence that...
Start that sentence over. I don't know where
Okay. I early began teaching Sunday school, teaching class. Started out first with adults and taught adults for a number of years. And I finally made up my mind that they were already over the hill, and I wanted to put my influence to the younger group. So I changed back to what you'd call the teenage group, then the young adult group. And through the years, I taught this group. And I got a great deal of satisfaction out of watching the future of the young people, both men and women, that came through my Sunday school classes.
Mr. Rogers, what do you feel are the greatest problems that the church faces today?
In the age in which we live, I doubt whether or not the church can do an effective job on a denominational basis. It occurs to me that we must become more ecumenical and become better, more united, and place our influence on what I call the center, insofar as the Christian religion is concerned, and that is the belief in Jesus Christ as the Son of the living God, and our willingness to accept Him as such, and to live by and live by His teachings. With society as it is to present time, and with communication as it is to present time, I can't, and especially in the urban centers, and we've become now an urban country and not a rural country. I think there has to be closer cooperation between the evangelical churches that I'm familiar with, between the evangelical churches, and I just don't think an adequate end result can be obtained on a denominational basis. I know we're getting less denominational all the time as far as lives concerned, and I know also too it's awful hard to keep a deep spiritual content to your teaching and to your life when you get on an ecumenical basis. But I still think that with that problem we have, that we can't come as vital as far as the lives of people are concerned on an ecumenical basis as we have done on a denominational basis. I still feel that when we realize that there's been a greater change in transportation and communication in my lifetime and all creation prior thereto, and due to the fact that here in America we have moved from a rural community to an urban community, it requires closer cooperation, and I'm strong for the ecumenical approach as far as Protestant Christianity is concerned.
Do you feel that the church is gaining or losing ground at the present time in our present society?
I don't think it's gaining ground, but I don't want to admit here in this interview that it's losing ground, but I'm afraid it might be.
Other than the what you've discussed, do you feel any other areas where you feel that the church can gain ground?
I think the church can gain ground working on a better cooperative basis and having a more vital program as far as the youth today is concerned. I'm deeply concerned about the youth of today and the influence the church could have on the lives of the young people today, which I do not believe it is having at the present time. And I believe that through closer cooperation, a more vital program, a more realistic program, bringing it closer to the people, that we can improve the influence of the church and bring the essential of a belief in Jesus Christ in your life, and that belief becomes dictates the quality of your life and the course of your life. I think can be done, and the thing that bothers me is that I don't know whether we're reaching the young people like we should today.
Mr. Rogers, you've been active since the beginning in the work of the Medical Research Foundation. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the background leading up to the formation of the Medical Research Foundation.
In the beginning of developing an interest in the Medical Research Foundation, it came into being as a result of the interest and concern of some graduates of the School of Medicine of the University of Oklahoma. At the time we organized the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation, I think all the money it made available a year for research was about $50,000 appropriated by the legislature. And so we were not able to make much headway in medical education in the state of Oklahoma because you cannot obtain qualified people in the field of medicine unless you have research facilities. And research is an absolutely essential part of medical education. So down here in Oklahoma, we wanted to try to develop a research foundation that could be worked in close cooperation with the School of Medicine. And we started out with this objective in view, and it's been our objective ever since. And of course, medical education is very expensive, and medical research is very expensive, and you can only move as rapidly as you have the funds to move with. However, we were very fortunate as far as the Medical Research Foundation is concerned because we found some people who are interested in medical research. I might say that I became interested in medical research primarily because of the health problem of Mrs. Rogers. She had a very difficult health problem we could find no solution for, and about the time that she was at a very low state, through a research project in Boston, Massachusetts, they made a discovery. She was losing red blood cells. They made a discovery whereby you didn't have the solution to the problem of the destruction of red blood cells, but they worked out a diet program where you could reproduce the red blood cells to offset those that had been lost. And as a result of this, Mrs. Rogers was able to live a reasonably normal life. Of course, it wasn't normal as far as her inner life was concerned, but outside, why, it seemed to be a reasonably normal life. And I would like to say this about medical research. I don't think anybody really gets interested in medical research until a health problem comes right down to their home. When a health problem comes down to their home, then they get concerned about it. And by getting concerned about it, then they're willing to give time to it, and give their money to it, and give their leadership to it. So I became deeply interested in this program. Now, by virtue of the fact that I became deeply interested in the program and was associated with the Chapman-McFarland family, who are a highly successful family, through my discussions with Mr. Chapman primarily, the need for medical research, and it was one of the philanthropies that I thought that private individuals ought to be concerned with. And it was through this influence that I worked with Mr. Chapman and worked with Mr. Chapman in developing the interest in medical research. And now then, as a result of that, and as a result of his actions, a large endowment fund is made available to medical research in Oklahoma.
Could you discuss any of the breakthroughs in medical research that have taken place in Oklahoma as a result of our Medical Research Foundation?
I'm a lawyer by profession. I'm not educated in the scientific field, especially in the medical field, and I wouldn't be able to talk intelligently with regard to any progress made as far as medical education is concerned and medical research is concerned. I will say, however, there has been progress made.
Mr. Rogers, I'd like to ask you a rather general question. Are there any thoughts that you might have for the young people growing up today?
I think there's a great opportunity for young people in the world today. I think a better opportunity for young people than any time in the past. However, it requires a good education. It requires diligence and a determination to succeed, and a determination to make the necessary preparation for us to succeed in life. But I think today the young people have a greater opportunity for real service as far as humanity is concerned, both in the field of health and so far as the physical side of life is concerned, and as far as the material side of life is concerned. There's a greater opportunity for real leadership among the young people today if they'll only become sufficiently concerned and train and prepare themselves for leadership.